Global settings menu. If we hit the down key to go into global settings, here we set the first parameter is the MIDI channel. This unit is set for 1. If you are using multiple MIDI liquid tracks devices, then each one has to have a separate MIDI channel. Otherwise you're going to be, if you send a CC command to a master, it's actually going to send it to all the units and they're all going to respond, and that's not always what you want. So MIDI receive for the liquid channel, liquid tracks. Sysex ID, all liquid tracks should have the exact same sysex ID. The default is 123. So in your network, if you have more than one liquid tracks, make sure that they all say 123 or whatever number you choose to give it. MIDI out port. On the back of the liquid tracks, there's a MIDI in port, a MIDI out port, and a MIDI through. MIDI through is always what it says, it's a MIDI through. MIDI in is always a MIDI in, but the MIDI out port, you can program it to just be MIDI out only, or as you can see, a MIDI out through. It defaults to a MIDI out only, and if you're synchronizing multiple liquid tracks with a master unit and slave units, one or many slave units, then you always want this to be out only, because the MIDI out cable will go from the MIDI out of the master to the MIDI in of the slaves, and you do not want MIDI in data passing through to the slave units, and you'll see why when we talk about master and slave. But anyway, you can control that. If you want to just have a single liquid tracks and you want the MIDI in and the MIDI out to all flow through one cable for easier routing, then you can go ahead and change that to through, hit select to save. You can see the light over here blink, and that means it's saved. I'm going to set this back for now. Okay. So that's what that does. Master, slave. So if I scroll, you can see I can change from master to slave, and then if I hit the right arrow, the arrow moves over to the network ID, and then we can set up a network of 0 through 15. So you can have up to 15 different liquid track networks, and each network can have 1 to 2,000 liquid track slaves, so basically unlimited. If the network is set to 0, ID of 0, which is the default, that means that this is not a master and it's not connected to a network at all, even though it says master. If this is going to be a slave unit, then I'll go back to the right, left rather, hit slave, and then change the ID to whatever the network is that this one's attaching to. So that's all you have to do, and I'll actually show the master slave in a second here. So let me go ahead and save that. Ignore my changes. Okay, so that's that feature. Then there are 2 parameters that you should not touch. These are defined by the model number. These are the delay compensation, depending on what media you plug into the liquid tracks. And I do recommend, if you have multiple liquid tracks, that you use the same media for each of the units, same brand, memory card if you're using a memory card, or same hard drive if you're using hard drives. Reason being, they have different latency issues, timing of read back and write cycles, and we like to keep the liquid tracks in sync. So the best way to do that is to try and standardize. Where things are not in sync, that's where these parameters come in. Most of you will never touch those. If there's an add-on module built that you've added into here, like an amplifier module or memory expansion modules, or all different things that'll be coming out, it'll tell you what's installed if there is something. And then the serial number of the liquid tracks itself will show up at the end for your liquid tracks. Okay. So that is the global settings.